Watch Ben Shapiro has actually been critical of Trump for once. Yeah, I noticed he does this when Israel comes up.
Alrighty, folks, just a fire hose of news over the weekend. President Trump cutting a brand new tariff deal with China, and it's turning the markets around. Plus, Idon Alexander, the last remaining American hostage in Gaza, released by Hamas at the behest of the Trump administration. Of course, I know the Alexander family. We'll talk about that. Plus, all about that Qatari jet, that $400 million Qatari plane that they want to give to President Trump and his presidential library. First, the news moves fast. Bad news moves fastest of all. Every day, it gets harder to tell what's real, what's manufactured to control. Secretary Scott Bessent, who's been looking for a act. It gets harder to tell what's real, what's manufactured to control and discourage us. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more facts. That's why starting today, we are giving you more of the Ben Shapiro Show. Actually, 2 times more of the Ben Shapiro Show. That's right. We are making the show longer. Twice the analysis, twice the facts. Join in at dailywire.com/subscribe. Lots and lots of news. We begin with the biggest news, the most impactful news, which is, of course, that the U.S. and China have now apparently agreed to slash tariffs on one another. This is a deal reached by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who's been looking for an off-ramp with regard to these extraordinarily high tariffs that he said just last week were unsustainable with regard to China. Now, there will still be tariffs on China. China will still have tariffs on American products, but we are starting to move toward what looks like a significantly more rational trade policy with the rest of the world. So yes, we have still significantly raised tariffs on the rest of the world. That 10% flat rate tariff still exists on the rest of the world. Now, the 125 to 145% tariffs that were placed on the Chinese, those have been lowered. According to the Wall Street Journal, after weekend talks in Geneva, President Trump's reciprocal tariff on China will fall to 10% from 125%, so essentially the same as the tariffs that we currently have on, say, England or any other country. A separate 20% tariff the president imposed over what he described as China's role in the fentanyl trade is going to remain. So presumably that means really it's not a 10% tariff, it's a 30% tariff, which again, looks more rational. As I've said from the beginning, when it came to tariffing China, going after China as an actual geopolitical opponent is necessary. This is the thing that President Trump did in term 1. That was absolutely necessary. And everybody seemed to buy into, on the right and the left in the United States. I've talked to many, many Democrats who have acknowledged that Trump was right to reset the table with regard to China. So attempting to box China in with regard to trade, attempting to create a divide in the world such that third-party countries move toward the United States and away from China. That is a good thing. Reshoring critical industries away from China toward third parties or toward the United States is a very good thing. But if you're going to do this, you need to do it in rational fashion. That means gradually escalating tariffs on China such that manufacturers actually have time to move out of China before the door is slammed shut on them. You actually need to reshore critical supply chains like rare earth minerals in order to ensure that we aren't just deprived of the things that we need in the United States in order to compete with China. You need to cut better trade deals with everybody around China so that they don't orient toward China and away from us, and you need to build up U.S. Navy. We didn't do any of those things. We just sort of ran into the room, threw 145% tariff on the table, and ran out of the room while simultaneously slapping other countries with a rubber chicken. It turns out that was not exactly a great trade policy. The good news is, as I've said all along with President Trump lives in the world of reality. If the headlines are bad, he responds. If the stock market doesn't seem to be doing what he wants it to do, he responds. So long as good information penetrates whatever echo chambers around him, he will in fact respond to incentives. It's one of the things that made him a successful president in term 1. It's the thing that will make him a successful president in term 2. He might start off with a bad idea from, say, Peter Navarro. But if it turns out that that bad idea has real world ramifications that damage his presidency, then he moves away from that bad idea.
Wait. If you're a Jew, do they wear their yarmulke like underneath other stuff? Like if they have if they wore like a hoodie or something, or if they had like a coat on, would they wear their yarmulke underneath it? Do they do that? Or like a poncho or a fedora?
And that's what's happening with regard to China. So again, the tariffs aren't going away with regard to China, but they are being dramatic.
Holy shit. Could you imagine if somebody took off that beanie from Tim Pool and there was a fucking yarmulke under there? Ooh.
Lowered with regard to China. Beijing is going to cut its own retaliatory levies on U.S. goods to 10% from 125%. The U.S. says that the reductions are going to last for 90 days while the talks continue, but let's be real about this. They're not going away. Whenever President Trump says that there's going to be a break in the tariff regime, the idea they're going to snap back in 90 days to 125, 145%. Again, the Treasury Secretary said last week that was unsustainable, so it's not going to be sustained. We're not going back to those tariff rates. Now again, this is starting to look much more like a rational trade policy. The markets, of course, spiked because everybody in the markets was looking for some sort of off-ramp here. They're trying to figure out exactly what President Trump is doing on trade.
Oh, wait. The biggest.
Let's look at the stats. The facts. My money like lives in my pocket.
Does he take his hoodie down?
It's a fact. Homie, I'm epic. Strippers and cars. Internet. My wrist. Billboard.
We won't turn your sons into thugs.
Wait, who linked this and said it unironically answered your question? You lied.
You know you have. Sam. I don't care.
Fuck you. At the start of the video, you saw it, retard.
They call me a fan.
Where?
They call
No, that's like the back of his, or that's like the folded over hoodie.
me offensive, controversial. It's only two genders, boys and girls. They can't cancel my message because I'm the biggest independent.
Actual retard. Get the fuck out of here.
Now, I think the markets are spiking a little bit much. What I mean there is that the markets are a momentum-driven instrument. The markets are now trading higher than they were after Liberation Day. So Liberation Day, you recall, April 2nd, that is when President Trump announced this giant tariff regime on the rest of the globe combined, and the markets dropped dramatically. The Dow was trading about 43,000. Well, now the markets are trading up around where they were before. That seems to me a weird calibration based on momentum. And the reason I say that is because if you were to just look at the trade policy before Liberation Day and the trade policy after Liberation Day, the idea that those trade policies are identical and therefore the markets should be identical, obviously that's not true. There are a bunch of 10% tariffs that now exist that didn't exist before. There are still heavy levies against Chinese goods that didn't exist that now exist. So the markets are going to recalibrate. It'll probably end up lower, if I had to guess, than it is right now. But clearly, the markets are moving toward more sanguinity. And they should be, because President Trump has been pushing deregulation at the same time he's pushing this. He's been pushing forward that big, beautiful tax bill. And we'll get to the tax bill a little bit later on in the show, where the negotiations stand. He's floated some good ideas. He's floated some bad ideas with regard to this tax bill. However, this is also going to lead to the possibility of things like Fed rate cuts. So the Federal Reserve has been holding off on cutting the interest rates because of fears of inflation. If President Trump does not continue with this massive tariff regime, the chances of inflation are going to drop. If the chances of inflation drop, then you could see a lowering of the interest rates, which means more liquidity in the markets. It means cheaper mortgages. It means the economy continues to kind of truck along. Right now, according to traders, there's a 57% chance the Federal Reserve holds rates steady through its next two meetings, which is up from 40% as of Friday. However, as the markets adjust, I think that you will see that people are going to start betting on the idea that the Federal Reserve theoretically could, in fact, cut the rates if, again, there is more momentum in this direction. I think, again, that what happened here is that reality set in. President Trump understood the reality, and he responded to the reality, which is good. You want a president who actually responds to realities.
Oh, yeah?
In this way, the president that President Trump actually most resembles in the recent past is actually Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton in 1993-94 pushed forward Hillary Care, got absolutely shellacked, and then moved to the right and governed as a sort of centrist for the rest of his term. He did welfare reform, for example. He did criminal justice reform bills. He had an actual surplus. President Trump is much more pragmatic. He's kind of Clintonian in the way that he is pragmatic in his politics, as opposed to ideologically driven the way, say, Barack Obama or Joe Biden was. And I think one of the reasons President Trump is looking for an off-ramp here is because he's starting to see the incoming wall of the hurricane. As I said before, there was a hurricane headed for American shores, economically speaking. That hurricane came in the form of a giant cascade of empty ships that were arriving at American ports. And that was going to create serious supply chain problems. President Trump doesn't like that. And so he is now acting in order to prevent that from effectuating, from becoming a reality. It's more on this in a moment. First, Pure Talk says, I don't think so. It's $100 a month self-best. You can switch to add/shipping plan. Very plus for free also. And it's Scott, you act by a growing expense eating into your company's profits. It's your cloud computing bill. You may have gotten a deal to start, but now the spend is sky high and increasing every single year. What if you could cut your cloud bill in half and improve performance at the same exact time? Well, if you act by May 31st, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure can help you do just that. OCI is the next generation cloud designed for every workload where you can run. And if you qualify for half off at oracle.com, too much % less for storage, 80% less, mean that all the tariffing gets started today at oracle.com/Shapiro.
Thank you.
Now, again, as I say, does this mean that all the tariff wars are over? Does this mean that we are moving toward a more free trade world? No. It means there's still going to be tariff barriers, which is why I think that the stock market's jump today is maybe a little overstated. And as reality sets in, it's going to settle about back where it was, maybe a little bit lower than it was before Liberation Day, so-called Liberation Day. Here's Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, saying 10% tariffs remain here. They're not going anywhere.
So we do expect a 10% baseline tariff to be in place for the foreseeable future. But don't buy the silly arguments that the U.S. consumer pays. Businesses, their job is to try to sell to the American consumer and domestically produce.
This guy is evil. What was his background prior to this? Like, at least Besant, you can tell when he's speaking. He looks like he's, like one of his balls are being crushed. Like, you can kind of tell the Besant's like, I got to sell this somehow. This guy is just a total fucking subhuman, disgusting. He's like the economics version of Stephen Miller. I hate this fucking guy. He's shameless. Ugh.
Products are not going to have that tariff.
However, the reason that the markets are in fact optimistic is because, as James McIntosh writes over at the Wall Street Journal, the grown-ups are in the room. The reason for the giant bounce in the stock market is because Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is now in control of trade policy and presumably in control of regulatory policy and tax policy as well. So what exactly is Bessent still looking for? A deeper reform of the Chinese economy, turning it from a mercantilist exporter into a consumer and leading to more balanced trade. Now, again, that is going to be hard, but the reality is we are now avoiding the hurricane that was approaching, and I think the economy is responding to that in very good ways. So good for President Trump, good for Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Meanwhile, in other news, Idan Alexander, who's the last remaining alive American hostage who'd been taken by Hamas on October 7th, is set to be released today. It was going to happen sometime between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Israel time. The Red Cross, which has been utterly derelict in its treatment of the hostages, meaning it had no contact with any of the hostages for well over a year, is going to be facilitating all of this. Obviously, it's a deeply moving moment that Idan Alexander is coming out as a 21-year-old Israeli-American dual citizen, and he was kidnapped.
Ooh, now we see the true test of where Ben Shapiro's loyalties lie, because I think that the Israelis, right, were mad about this because they somehow got the release of an American Jew, but fuck all happened with the rest of the Israeli Jews. Is Ben Shapiro going to be happy about this? Or he's going to carry his AIPAC line and say this wasn't good? Uh-oh.
On October 7th, I, of course, know the Alexander family. I know his parents, Yael and Adi. I know his brother, Roy. In fact, I brought them to the Ohel, to the grave of Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson in New York on October 7th. And I had them meet with President Trump. You can see here, that's his mom, that's his brother. And they're showing President Trump a picture of Idan Alexander. So Idan Alexander is coming out today. The big question is, what did Hamas receive in return? And it appears that Hamas actually received very little. So this is a good deal by the Trump administration in that sense. It is creating, and again, whenever you have a hostage deal, there's no such thing as a good hostage deal because you are dealing with hostage takers. However, the question is what concessions Hamas received on the other end. There are a lot of rumors about what exactly Hamas received on the other end of releasing Idan Alexander. Some rumors include the idea that perhaps the United States will now be more amenable to Hamas being a part of the future of governing the Gaza Strip. That would be insane and ridiculous. That would be ridiculous. Hamas took Idan Alexander a hostage in the first place. They took 250 people hostage. A huge number of those people, including babies, were plain out murdered by Hamas. Hamas can, of course, have no part in the governance of the Gaza Strip. They need to be extirpated from the planet Earth. And the release of Idan Alexander doesn't actually change any of that math. There have also been rumors that this is going to lead to a sort of broader ceasefire deal. Maybe, maybe not. The Witkoff plan. Steve Witkoff, of course, is President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East. Steve Witkoff had proposed the possibility of a 45-day or 70-day ceasefire in exchange for 11 more hostages and 18 dead bodies. That may come to fruition. We'll have to see. There's been talk about humanitarian aid flowing into the Gaza Strip. The reason Hamas wants that is so they can steal all of it. So the question becomes, how is that aid secured? However, we can say it is an unabashed good that Idan Alexander is coming out again. It's an amazing thing for his family. I know the family. I was texting with them yesterday.
Wow, you're so cool.
It's an amazing thing. So good for the Trump administration along those lines. Clearly, what Hamas is attempting to do is basically settle all outstanding business with the United States so as to then create separation between the United States and Israel in Iran negotiations. That is what is happening with the Houthis as well. It is not a coincidence that as the Houthis are basically forswearing attacks on American shipping, and the United States is saying that the United States is no longer going to worry about the Houthis, essentially. Now, Hamas is now trying to do the same by releasing the sole living American hostage in the Gaza Strip, trying to basically say that the United States now has no part in that conflict. Well, okay, fine. I mean, if the United States has no part in that conflict, then Israel should just go and do what they need to do. That seems to me a proper solution with regard to the Gaza Strip. Now, the ugliest part, and there is an ugly part to this, is that there are...
Ugliest part. Hold on. I need to swipe for this. What? Okay. What do you got? What's the ugliest part?
Widespread rumors and now news reports that Idan Alexander is going to be flown to Qatar to meet with the Emir of Qatar. This is vile. That's vile. He should, of course, meet with President Trump. He can do so in America. He can do so in Israel. There are plenty of places that Idan Alexander and his family can express their gratitude to President Trump, as well they should. Going to Qatar to meet the Emir of Qatar. Qatar is a terror sponsor country. Qatar is the number one funder of Hamas. It is disgusting to have a hostage who is taken by a group funded by Qatar go to Qatar to thank the Emir of Qatar for his freedom. That's an absurdity on its face if it were to happen. It is wrong. It should not be facilitated by the United States.
Damn.
Qatar is the sponsor state of Hamas. In fact, if the Trump administration seriously wanted all hostages out of Gaza, they could do so tomorrow simply by telling the Emir of Qatar that the airbase in Qatar is going away and that it'll move to the UAE, which the United States could do. That should have been the approach of the Biden administration on October 8th. They should have said all the hostages come out or the airbase goes away. That's how closely tied together Qatar and Hamas are. Well, Idan Alexander is now 21. Hamas captured him when he was 19 on October 7th, 2023, of course. Now, all of this has some wider ramifications with regard to negotiations in the Middle East. Again, Steve Witkoff continues to...
Nico is dating Bianca Sensori's sister. I don't even know who that is. But good for him, I think, maybe.
...say ridiculous things publicly. So Steve Witkoff, who, again, I do not think is a good negotiator. I do not think that Steve Witkoff has demonstrated his bona fides.
He's kind of a retard, true.
So far, all of the hostage deals have essentially been kind of mediocre in the sense that maximum pressure has not been exerted on the bad guys. Yesterday, Witkoff said, we want to bring the hostages home, but Israel is not willing to end the war. Israel is prolonging it despite the fact that we don't see where else we can go, and that an agreement must be reached. There's currently an opportunity window we hope Israel and all the mediators will take advantage of. We're putting pressure on all the mediators and doing everything we can to bring the hostages home. It's not Israel's unwillingness to end the war that is leading to hostages being taken. That's like blaming the police for the kidnappers not releasing the hostages. No, actually, that's up to the kidnappers. Hamas could end the war today. They could have ended the war October 6th. It never had to happen in the first place. Meanwhile, all of this is part and parcel of broader negotiations happening over the Iranian nuclear program. According to the Wall Street Journal, the United States said it was encouraged by talks with Iran on Sunday after a meeting, but the two sides remain divided on key questions, including whether Tehran will be allowed to enrich its own uranium. Well, I mean, that is the key question. That is not one key question. That is the key question. The United States should have no interest.
That's Ye's wife? Wait, Sneeko is dating Ye's wife? Wait, what?
In a deal with Iran where Iran continues to develop nuclear missiles. That is ridiculous. Anything that allows them the capacity to continue to develop nuclear materials, which can then be tied to their
his wife's sister. Oh, okay.
ballistic missile program is insane. The United States should not be party to that. That is the JCPOA. That is the thing that Donald Trump labeled the worst deal in history. The United States should not be conceding points to the Iranian government.
Speed, 1,200%.
Again, Witkoff and Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met for 3 hours in the Omani capital of Muscat in their fourth round of negotiations since April 12th. After the meeting, the U.S. cast the latest talks, mediated by Omani officials, as positive and said the diplomacy would continue in the near future. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman said talks were difficult but useful in better understanding the U.S. position. Now, again, Iran has another goal in these talks. If they can't get a bad deal from the Trump administration, and again, I have faith that President Trump is not going to cut JCPOA Part 2. It would be a rejection of his own legacy. If Iran has another goal, it is delay. And a delay for Iran is as good as a deal. In October, the JCPOA period ends. At that point, they can simply rush to a bomb. Now, they could just rush to a bomb right now as well. They can simply violate whatever is left of the JCPOA, and they could rush to a bomb. Herein lies the problem. Right now, there is a window of opportunity for anyone who wishes to end the Iranian nuclear program. That window of opportunity exists because Israel eviscerated a few months back Iran's entire air defense program. So the skies over Iran are totally clear right now. Not only that, but Iran still has not developed retaliatory capacity that would deter action by, say, Israel. If Iran is capable of standing the Israelis down by negotiating with the United States for prolonged periods of time, that is their win. Simply the negotiations being dragged out over a lengthy period of time is something the Iranians are going for pretty clearly. The two sides are still very far apart on the question of whether Iran gets to retain its nuclear enrichment program. Witkoff has sent mixed messages himself because, again, he has no expertise in any of these issues. He set out what he called clear U.S. red lines, that Iran can't have an enrichment program under a deal, nor should it have any centrifuges, which enrich uranium. And then Iran came back and said they would never accept any such terms.
And then they said,
President
okay.
Masoud Pezeshkian, who, again,
and then
is
the USA is like,
standing for
okay,
the
well,
so Iran has never sought and will never seek nuclear weapons, but it will not back down from its peaceful nuclear rights. After Sunday's talk, Araghchi said Iran was open to adjusting the amount of enrichment it does and the purity of the material being produced for a limited period as a confidence-building measure. But he said there is no room for discussion about Iran's continued domestic enrichment.
Aw.
So what exactly is Iran giving away that makes Steve Witkoff and company...
Are you going to give us anything in which to spend our channel points? Eventually.
...optimistic in any way? Again, this is just so Iran can delay. And if President Trump doesn't want to bomb Iran, which again he has set out as sort of binary, there's a third option here, by the way, which is that the United States maintains maximum pressure on Iran, and then Israel goes and attacks the Iranian nuclear facilities. I think that is actually the most likely outcome here if I'm just gaming out the possibilities for the next several months. With all of that said, all of this ties into broader Middle Eastern negotiations that are happening over everything from the Abraham Accords to the release of hostages to the future of the Gaza Strip to what's happening in Iran. Now, all of this crosses paths, obviously, with President Trump's visit to the Middle East this week. The biggest story in terms of the media coming out this week is a story reported by ABC News, among others, that the Trump administration is now preparing to accept a super luxury Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet from the royal family of Qatar.
Uh-oh.
It is a $400 million gift available for use by President Trump as new Air Force One until shortly before he leaves office, at which time, according to the deal, the plane doesn't stay with the United States government. It then moves to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation.
Uh-oh.
According to ABC News, the gift had been expected to be announced when President Trump was on his visit to Qatar. A senior White House official said it's not going to happen in Qatar anymore, presumably thanks to social media blowback. President Trump put out a statement on Truth Social about the blowback saying, so the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats, they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers.
Crooked
MAGA.
Dems.
So, again, the arrangement itself is, shall we say, I believe the technical term, the legal term, is skeezy. Sources told ABC News that lawyers for the White House counsel's office and the Department of Justice drafted an analysis for the Defense Department, concluding it's legal for the DOD to accept the aircraft as a gift and then later turn it over to the Trump Library, and that somehow does not violate laws against bribery or the Constitution's prohibition on emoluments. The Constitution literally says the U.S. government cannot accept official gifts from any king, prince, or foreign state. Apparently, Attorney General Pam Bondi and the top White House lawyer, David Warrington, concluded it would be legally permissible for the donation of the aircraft to be conditioned on transferring its ownership to Trump's presidential library before the end of his term.
Jesus. So you probably do have everything in your library. You're allowed to do whatever you want with it, I'm guessing. So it's not even really, it is being given kind of to the United States, but it is removed from the United States' possession and then given to the library afterwards. That's actually insane. I'm just not even, I don't care actually, because I must be misunderstanding that. I must be misunderstanding that. I must be. There's no way, right? There's just no way. There's no way.
And apparently Pam Bondi, who it should be mentioned at this point was once a actual FARA registered agent acting on behalf of the government of Qatar, provided a legal memorandum addressed to the White House counsel's office last week after Warrington asked her for advice on the legality of the Pentagon accepting such a donation. We'll get to more on that in a second. First, choosing Simply Safe for our students proceeded that allowed you to connect with these post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Let's start off with this. Qatar is not allegedly giving President Trump a $400 million jet out of the goodness of their sweet little hearts, no matter what Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says. They try to stuff money in pockets in totally bipartisan fashion. Just rewind a few years. While Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, Qatar gave $1 million to the Clinton Foundation for Bill Clinton's birthday and didn't even bother to inform the State Department, as they promised they would do. So, again, Qatar will court anyone it thinks will have power, Republican or Democrat. It's an equal opportunity influencer, as long as you can help whitewash their image or smooth over the fact that they are, in fact, the world's largest proponents of terrorism on an international scale in terms of PR and in terms of putting money in pockets. Qatar likes to present a modern, Western-friendly face while shoveling money to Islamic terrorists under the table. This is a regime that has, for literally decades, funneled billions of dollars into the hands of Hamas, Hezbollah.
A source tells CNN that despite Trump's claim that the $400 million jet from Qatar would go to his presidential library and not be used for travel, he plans to use it after leaving office. Yeah, obviously, duh. What, wait, hold on. If it goes to the presidential library and it's held there, what is the structure of that from an organizational point of view? Does that mean you don't even have to pay taxes on it because it's not even held by him personally as an asset? I wonder what the tax structure or is like of the presidential library stuff.
The Taliban. We're talking about systematic, ongoing financial support that has strengthened Hamas's grip on Gaza, provided them with the resources, and yes, enabled terror attacks that killed innocent civilians. Doha, which is the capital, their 5-star hotels are basically a retirement home for Hamas leaders. Qatar has been credibly accused by the Treasury Department, by international watchdogs, by regional allies.
Just curious, was Ben Shapiro critical of the peace talks? By the way, when I say peace talks, I mean the surrender of the United States to the Taliban, because those talks were held in Doha as well. Did he mention any of that back then?
Of allowing financiers of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the Muslim Brotherhood to operate within its borders. This is a country that has repeatedly failed to crack down on terrorist financing, even after being pressured by the United States and its neighbors. In 2017, former Defense Secretary Robert Gates said, quote, "I don't know instances in which Qatar aggressively goes after networks of Hamas, Taliban, or Al-Qaeda." Qatar has, of course, transferred almost $2 billion to Hamas over the years, which, again, is one of the reasons it's so sick to send Idan Alexander to meet with the Emir of Qatar, if that's a thing that ends up happening. Here is the former Saudi foreign minister, again, not Westerner, Saudi foreign minister, Adel Al-Jubair, explaining the problems with Qatar.
The Qataris, since the mid-90s, have been sponsoring radicals.
Look, this is what I mean when I say Saudi Arabia. These are not real countries with like militaries and shit. I don't know how Qatar is this itty bitty country. They're like border Saudi Arabia. Like it's right up there in the, I always forget the name of that. The Strait of Hormuz is up there. Is it the Arabian Gulf? Why don't they terrorist attack them or do any crazy shit like that? Why don't they never do anything to them? Because they have nothing. They just stare at each other and do nothing. Look, what's going on up here? Nothing. This place is not real. Nothing happens here. This is the origination of the nothing ever happens guy. It's got to be this whole Gulf, okay? How can their interests be so unaligned? Maybe one day we'll research it, maybe.
They have been inciting people. They have become a base for the leadership for the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood, you have to keep in mind, is what begot us Takfir and Hijrah, which begot us Al-Qaeda, which begot us Al-Nusra. The Qataris allow their senior religious clerics to go on television and justify suicide bombings. That's not acceptable.
They don't like
the Qataris harbor and shelter terrorists.
Not okay with
That's not acceptable.
Again, that's the Sauds. So how does Qatar excuse all of this? Well, Qatar simply says they don't actually consider terrorist groups to be, terrorists. Here was the Emir of Qatar saying as much back in 2014.
Based.
No, we do recognize extremists. We believe that they're extremists. We believe that they're extremists, and we don't fund extremists. But there are differences. There are differences that some countries and some people, that any group which comes from Islamic background are terrorists, and we don't accept that.
Okay, so some of the groups they don't consider to be terrorists would be, like all the ones we mentioned: Hamas, Hezbollah, the Taliban. Qatar essentially plays both sides of the table. They say they should be given leeway because they're the negotiation point for the West and terrorist groups. But then Qatar helps fund and house those terrorist groups, as well as doing the bidding of Iran. You know who says this, actually? President Trump. There was President Trump on Qatar in June 2017.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level.
Yeah. You think Trump wrote
And in the
this
wake
speech?
of that conference, nations came together and spoke to me about confronting Qatar over its behavior. So we had a decision to make. Do we take the easy road, or do we finally take a hard but necessary action?
Sounds like we took the easy road.
We have to stop the funding of terrorism.
Guess we changed our mind on that one, huh?
How does Qatar combat these allegations? The answer is they spread the money everywhere. Everywhere. According to the Network Contagion Research Institute, Qatar is by far the single largest donor to American universities since 9/11. By far, it's not close. You want to talk about foreign influence operations? This would be that. They're not doing that because they're so sweet and nice. Why exactly would they sign these giant checks unless they got something in return? Here's the Prime Minister of Qatar this week explaining to the Georgetown Doha campus, yes, Georgetown has a campus in Qatar, that the service of Qatar had to be their guiding light as part of a greater national project on behalf of Qatar.
Yep.
أوصيكم اليوم بخشية الله في
Since today, he said in
Qatar is basically, nobody talks about it because nobody even knows what this country is. I think of Outlaw Star when people say Qatari. So, I mean, like, I don't even blame people, but nobody knows anything about this country in the U.S. We don't talk about it. We don't do anything about it. But they are everything when it comes to funding and being subversive in schools. Just imagine, like, what the Nazis say Jews do. That's what Qatar actually does.
Arabic. I urge you to fear God in your conscience.
And by the way, when I say base, I'm being ironic. It's not base. It's super fucked up and not good.
And let the service of the nation and its people be your guiding light. And maintain your faith in yourselves. In a time where transformations are accelerating and crises are deepening, from the Gaza tragedy to regional tensions, Qatar reaffirms its commitment to mediation and diplomacy as a means to protect civilians. And credibility is built through continuous action. Okay, so what exactly is he saying? He says they're churning out people who work for Qatar. Okay. The greater national project doesn't end at Qatar's borders. Their influence matters. That is why Georgetown University, which has a branch in Doha, just gave a medal to a Qatari royal who praised Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, after October 7th. Qatar is also the home.
What do you mean by that? As in, Qatar funds a ton of subversive media and influence stuff that is not, like, reported by foreign shit for U.S. schools and everything in the United States.
Of Al Jazeera, the pro-terrorism media network that spreads anti-American, anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic bile across the Middle East. Meanwhile, the Qatar Investment Authority, QIA, controls, according to the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy, between $500 billion and $1 trillion in assets. And they use those assets to put themselves in positions of influence. So, for example, in August 2023, the Qatari Sovereign Wealth Fund bought the Park Lane Hotel in New York for $623 million. Okay. The company was owned by Steve Witkoff's company. The company had been in limbo. Park Lane Hotel was in limbo for 6 years following the attempted seizure of the hotel by the DOJ thanks to corruption charges against one of the original owners, a guy named Lo Take Zhou. So when Steve Witkoff says that he really, really likes the Qataris, well, I mean, he does have some warm relations with the Qataris.
I think in the case of the Qataris, they're criticized for not being well motivated. It's preposterous. Wow. They are well motivated. They're good, decent people. Aww. What they want is a mediation that's effective, that gets to a peace goal. And why? Because they're a small nation and they want to be acknowledged as a peacemaker.
Taking sacks of goodies from people who support Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al Jazeera, all the rest, that's not America first. Like, please define America first in a way that says you should take sacks of cash from the Qatari royals who are behind Al Jazeera. It just isn't America first in any conceivable way. So, back to the original question. Is this good for President Trump? Is it good for his agenda? Is it good for draining the swamp and getting things done? The answer is no, it isn't. It isn't. If you want President Trump to succeed, this kind of skeezy stuff needs to stop. And here's the thing. It's already having an impact. It's already having an impact. Quick example. Last week, the Senate considered a procedural vote on the so-called Genius Act. This is an act that should have had wide bipartisan support. The Genius Act helps deregulate the crypto industry, an area that's vital for America's economic development. As you all know, I'm a big fan of crypto. I own Bitcoin, some Ethereum. If you want to watch me explain why crypto is fascinating and useful, check out my YouTube video on the subject. And I know a ton of people in the crypto industry who've been ecstatic about President Trump's deregulatory approach to the subject, which is awesome. But the bill was shot down last week because, at least in part, Democrats said they wouldn't vote for the thing because of President Trump's use of crypto himself. You all remember President Trump launching $ Trump crypto 3 days before taking office as president.
Yeah,
Trump himself announced
weird.
The Trump crypto on X and Truth Social. He described it as a meme coin, meaning it had no inherent value. It was just there for the kind of bleeps and giggles. The price spiked to a trading value of nearly $13 billion, making it the 19th most valuable cryptocurrency on planet Earth. And then it proceeded to plummet, like really, really dive. The project allegedly netted people associated with it, meaning the Trump organizations associated with the Trump crypto, some $350 million. 80% of the outstanding supply of that meme coin is still held by insiders, presumably members of the Trump organization. Overall, according to data shared with CNBC, there were 2 million wallets that bought that Trump meme coin. 764,000 of them lost money. 58 wallets made more than $10 million. And then in April, that Trump meme coin announced that the top 220 holders of the meme coin would be invited to an intimate private dinner with President Trump at his golf club. The top 25 were invited to a VIP White House tour. According to Bloomberg News, 19 of the top 25 holders of that Trump meme coin that have registered on the website's leaderboard have bought the coins using foreign exchanges that claim to exclude U.S. customers, which means that foreigners are buying a lot of the meme coin and then getting meetings with President Trump, like VIP White House tours and all the rest.
What?
This raises the question of influence peddling. If you basically buy a bunch of Trump meme coin.
Wait, have I given him credit for this before? He said it raises the question instead of it begs the question. Good job.
President Trump, like VIP White House tours and all the rest. This raises the question of influence peddling. If you basically buy a bunch of Trump meme coin and then funnel money to organizations associated with President Trump so that you can have dinner with Trump, that doesn't look great. Democratic senators, of course, immediately announced that they wanted an ethics probe. They sent a letter saying, quote, this latest action raises grave ethics and legal concerns, including the severe risk that President Trump and other officials may be engaging in pay-to-play corruption by selling presidential access to individuals or entities to include foreign nationals and corporate actors with vested interests in federal action while personally enriching the president and his family. It might be overstated, but let's be clear, some people do seem to be investing in the Trump meme coin for the access. I mean, there was literally a CEO of a company called Freight Technologies that just bought $20 million worth of Trump meme coin, which I gotta say is not like the most solid investment. What was the explanation? Quote, we believe the addition of the official Trump tokens are an excellent way to diversify our crypto treasury and also an effective way to advocate for fair, balanced, and free trade between Mexico and the United States. So like to impact policy. Again, not the least skeezy thing I've ever heard. Now, listen, maybe all of this is overblown. Maybe it's all nonsense. Maybe some of it's not true. And I understand some of it's being reported by legacy media outlets. But again, here is the question. Does any of this help advance the president's agenda? You know, the agenda that we all voted for, the agenda we want to see implemented. Does this make his presidency stronger or weaker? Now, I'm going to repeat again. I don't know whether this activity is criminal in any way, but things do not have to be criminal to hurt the agenda. If you want President Trump's agenda to succeed, taking jets from Qatar is not the way. Taking real estate deals from Qatar is not the way.
Hater.
The largest obstacle to any administration is scandal. From Watergate to Whitewater, scandal-plagued administrations have a really tough time gathering the political capital necessary to actually effectuate their agenda. And that's why it's unbelievably important that the Trump administration avoid scandal. That is the reason I'm worried about this stuff. Yes, I think inherently it is bad. I do not think this is good. I think if we switch the names to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, we'd all be freaking out on the right.
True.
Let's say if Qatar was giving Joe a $400 million jet for his use at his presidential library after his presidency, or if Hunter launched a crypto firm with the son of Antony Blinken and then launched a series of crypto.
Like, people don't talk about this shit enough because they're so obsessed with the nuclear war in Pakistan and India, or they talk about nuclear war potentially with like Russia or Ukraine. I think the biggest threat when it comes to like a nuclear winter or some sort of like catastrophic event would be if a Democrat comes into office and starts doing even half the shit that Trump did. Conservatives all over the United States, their brains will undergo nuclear fission. It'll be over. It'll be like the people getting dropped into the planes and Attack on Titan and turning into Titans. Their brains will explode in like the most catastrophic battle. We'll never come back from it. It'll be unrecoverable.
Crypto products in which mysterious strangers, including foreigners, were investing, all while that crypto firm was being regulated by Joe's administration. We'd all have been pretty upset on the right. We might have said that it was worthy of some coverage.
I just love how careful he's like. We'd be pretty upset, and we'd say maybe, probably would take some coverage. Like, this is what was the overall amount of money that Hunter Biden supposedly made from Burisma? Wasn't the total amount of money like $10 million? Like the total amount over years and years is a $400 million jet. Like, oh my God.
Now, as I say again, it could.
Wait, how much money did Hunter Biden make in total Burisma? From 2013 to 2018. Oh, it's not even just him. Hunter Biden and his firm earned $11 million. Over the course of 5 to 6 years, his firm earned $11 million. Oh my God.
Could be all of these reporters, all of them. Maybe it's all just a misreading of perfectly innocent business. Sure, it's possible. But the point is this. President Trump has enemies all over the place. He has people seeking to take advantage of their proximity to his power. He has media outlets that would love nothing better than to set him up for another impeachment. And I promise you, if these issues begin to dog his administration, Republicans will lose Congress. It's that simple. Republicans are this close to losing Congress anyway. And then, whatever President Trump hopes to do, whatever agenda we all voted for, will be DOA. The investigations will never end. There will be more impeachments. All of that will happen. The administration's policy is too important for this sort of activity.
Yeah.
President Trump promised to drain the swamp. This is not, in fact, draining the swamp. President Trump was elected based on the American people being sick and tired of the swamp, tired of Hunter, tired of the Clintons, tired of the Biden crime family. Why in the world would President Trump be well served by this sort of vulnerability? Again, more importantly, why would those of us who voted for him, who gave to his campaign...
Like, I would just love to hear, okay, Biden crime family. How much money do you think Trump has made off of that cryptocurrency? Like, that in and of itself supersedes, like, every single potential claim, like, all the total value of all accused corruption, probably in the history of almost every single politician in the United States. Like, I don't blame Americans. There's a big issue of scale here that people just aren't understanding in terms of how much money we're actually talking about, because millions, billions, and trillions are like the same dollar amount to everything, and in the average person's mind, because we just don't deal with these numbers, firsthand. But the scale of the amount of money that we're talking about here is just on another level. Like, how big do I want to do this? I wonder if this plane is worth... No, fuck. I wonder how much the Kennedys, that whole family's worth. I was gonna say, I wonder if just the plane alone is worth more. Well, what is the net worth of all the... let's check real quick. Net worth, I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess the net worth of Barack Obama. I'm going to guess under 100 million. I'm going to say 40 million. That might be really low. I wonder how much money they made, like, selling books and speeches. Could be higher than that. Could be 100 million. I'm going to guess 40 million. Damn, 250 million. Okay, it's higher. All right. Well, according to Wikipedia, Money Magazine estimates his net worth at 1.3 million. Wait, what is Barack Obama's net worth? Okay, news article. Forbes said 70 million. We're going to go with that. Forbes is a more reputable. Okay. All right, 70 million. It wouldn't surprise me if this plane was worth about as much, or maybe half as much, as like the net worth of every single president in the history of the United States. Like, in the whole history of the United States, just the plane, not counting how much money Trump has made selling pieces of his suit and Bibles, not how much money he's made off of the crypto scam bullshit, not how much money he's made forcing people to go to Mar-a-Lago, and all the money that he's made by housing Secret Service agents, all those on properties, not how much money he's made trading on any other part of his name or brand or anything else, not the money that Kushner made when he got a $2 billion investment with his company from MBS, not how much, people don't understand the scale. I don't think people understand the scale of how much money we're talking about when it comes to these people. Because everybody's like, oh, corruption, it's all the same. It's all corrupt, LOL. Like, yeah, it's just wild.
Stumped for him, campaign for him, be well served by this. The answer is, we aren't. And that's why it needs to stop. Get some more on this in a moment. First, give your family the peace of mind they deserve with Policy Genius Life Insurance. So here's the thing. We're all going to die. I know, bad news. But Policy Genius can make sure that your family is at least financially taken care of if, God forbid, you plot. Policy Genius makes finding coverage simple, giving your loved ones a financial safety net to handle debts, expenses like mortgage payments, even build wealth over time if something, God forbid, happens to you. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. It's an easy way to protect the people you love and feel good about your future. Life insurance isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. Policy Genius understands that perfectly. They present all your options.
It's easier to increase your net worth as you get wealthier. It's not shocking that the wealthiest president can make a lot of money. Wrong. You're so fucking retarded. You're correct in the first part that once you're wealthy, you can get more wealthy. But the second part, it's not him leveraging his business sense to get more wealthy. It's him abusing the office of the president to get more wealthy.
With complete transparency, showing you different coverage amounts, prices, and terms, so you can make an informed decision. There's no guesswork involved, just clarity that helps you choose what's right for your specific needs and budget. Their side-by-side comparison tool shows you quotes from top insurers across America completely free, no hidden fees. Their licensed experts are with you every step of the way, answering questions, handling paperwork, advocating for you, so you can get the coverage you need and get back to living your life. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head on over to policygenius.com/Shapiro or click the link in the description to compare free life insurance quotes from top companies. See how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Shapiro. All right, another big economic news. President Trump had announced last week that he had a huge announcement.
Wait, we got Aspen slop on the plane?
President Trump has accepted this.
Hold on. Actually, I gotta do something real quick. You can watch this again. Fuck it. That's just an interesting perspective thing.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Everyone knows this, and you know it too, but when you see it, it's different. Ready?
I like your ponytail.
Here is $100,000, Conrad. Here, there it is. That's a lot of money. That's what we can hope at best to make in a year. You know, doing really fucking well after taxes. That'd be crazy to make in a year, right?
Right.
That's a lot of money. All right. Now, we have someone named Amhai who is top Twitch donator of all time. He has like probably $1 billion, right?
Right.
There are people in the world with $1 billion, regardless. Okay. Anyways, $1 billion, that's a big fucking number. We can see that there's a lot of zeros on top of the 100,000, but we don't really feel it. You don't really feel it until you go like this. Even though it's 10,000 times more, but here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 500,000. Copy paste that. That's $1 million, okay? Then we have to go 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 million. Let's copy paste that. That's 10 million, okay? Let's copy paste the 10 million. That's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100 million, okay? Let's copy paste the 100 million. Okay, that's 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, $1 billion, okay? And now I'm Amhai, and I'm going to donate Soda Pop in $100,000 like this.
Was that the delete key?
Yeah. And now we're going to try to find the money that we're missing now. Okay?
It's on the right. It's on the right. I see it. There it is.
You saw it. It was right there. But it's kind of hard to feel it. If I put it somewhere in the middle, you guys probably wouldn't find it. But you know what? You wouldn't find it for sure. Let's donate $2 million to my good friend Vinruki. And he could... Actually, let's donate this... Let's donate fucking $4 million. He could probably live a swell life with $4 million. Here, I'm Amhai. I'm giving Vinruki $4 million. Real quick. $4 million. I actually do not notice it's gone. I can never find it again. It's really difficult. You know? Because it's just lines missing. I'm not going to count my lines. There's so many. Jesus fucking Christ. I could actually... Hold on. Real quick. Let me buy, like, the most expensive fucking Bugatti or...
Am I autistic? I have no problem intuiting the difference between $1 million and $1 billion. I mean, it's 1,000 million easy. Yeah, but that just... It's hard to... Especially when you're talking about, like, incomes and not just wealth, but you're making money. It's just hard for people to understand the difference in lifestyles when it comes to things like that. Like, it's meaningfully... It's just, like... It's just so different.
Or like limited edition Lamborghini for $2 million somehow. And let me just drive it over to like a valet. Let me leave it there. And I'm going to get really drunk and I'm going to just... I'm going to go home with my friend. And I'm just going to leave the Lambo there, man. I don't even want to pick it up. Because you know what? Next day, let's buy another one. Okay, we got another Lambo. It's cool. This one has a nice... I like yellow. You know what? I don't like yellow. I'm going to buy green. Okay, green Lambo. Okay, no, hold on. Let me just... Normal price Lambo. Let me buy a normal price Lambo for like 5 of my friends. It's like 300K. Okay, 300K there. 1 friend, 2 friend, 3 friends. Okay, let me buy it for the rest of you. There you go. You guys all have Lambos. Oh, wait, I want another Lambo for myself. Okay, there we go. We're chilling. Okay, let me see if I...
No one has this much liquid assets, though. Maybe not, but I mean, like, they probably still do have quite a bit of liquidity, right? They might not have billions in liquidity, but I'm sure they have access to millions in liquidity. Very easy, right? Like, even in my current position, like, I could theoretically, like, if I was, like, ultra super inconvenienced and I was in some place and I couldn't fucking get any Ubers or whatever, like, I could buy, like, a $10,000 used car and, like, drive it around for the week and then leave it there and be like, whatever, I guess it's, you know, like that. And to think of being able to do that at 2 or 3 orders of magnitude higher, that somebody could theoretically do that with, like, a fucking Lambo and seriously just, like, not like, oh, whatever, fuck it, you know, who cares? It's just there's just such a huge difference between... This is why I get mad when people talk about like senators and congressmen are, oh, they're in it for the money and it's all lobbyists buying these guys. I was like, bro, if you donate $5,000 to a campaign, you can probably sit down like with federal level politicians in the country. Like $5,000 to a campaign will get you a dinner or whatever with I'm pretty sure almost any sitting senator or congressman in the United States. $5,000. It's not that much. But then when you've got people on Trump who are making on the orders of magnitude of like tens of millions of dollars, or hundreds of millions of dollars in gifts, it's just... The level is, it's just such a different level of wealth and money and income that you're talking about. It's just so crazy.
I still have any money left. Hold on. Looks like I got a little bit.
It's luxury.
Okay, we'll do a quick Asmon pit stop.
747 from Qatar for use as Air Force One. He got this beast for the US for free. And
do an Asmon slot prediction before the plane clip. I feel like this is like an easy one for him to like laugh and meme along, but it's like, oh yeah, it's probably bad. I think he's not going to focus as much on how actually bad it is. I think he's just going to say it looks bad. but he'll be able to cut, because this is like an easy one. This is a gimme. It's like, okay, obviously, right? That's my guess. We'll see.
And the Democrats are complaining. Bro, I'm telling you, like, we are going to be entering into an era. I heard it's fake to get us into war with Iran. I don't think that's it at all. Did Israel give Trump a jet? Or did Qatar give Trump a jet? I mean, you know, who's really our boys, right? MAGA. We give Israel billions, Asmon? Yeah, exactly. So why is it that we're giving them all this money and they've never get... How many jets has Israel given us? How many? Because as far as I know, the answer to that is 0. 2, technically? That's not enough. So this is the new jet they made for him?
Please tell me I have blue chips somewhere here. Oh my god.
All right.
Bro, is this just like a kind of a perspective meme, or is this a fucking huge plane? Is this like a bigger than 747, like triple, quadruple decker, or is this just like a perspective thing? It's gigantic. Okay. Wait, what kind of plane is this? Cutter. Oh, it is a 747. Oh, okay. Jesus. And not a passenger one, so it's decked out for... Or is this... Like, are there like thousands of seats inside, or is this like custom built for... Look up Beluga plane. That looks disgusting. Is it really named after the whale? 747-8 interior. Unveiling luxuries inside the $418.5 million Boeing 747-8 jet.
Welcome to the mesmerizing world of airplanes, where the Boeing 747-8 stands out as a
side quest.
truly remarkable example of engineering and design. It is a stunning airplane that embodies grace and power, displaying the brilliance of human engineering and ambitions. With its large wings and an awe-inspiring presence, it truly deserves admiration. And it's not just the engineers. This jet also has been the canvas for the creativity of top interior designers and design companies. These experts have customized this jet to create exclusive flying experiences for their private clients. Get ready to discover the inside of this private jet that is simply stunning and comes with a staggering price tag of $418.5 million. The Boeing 747 is big and unique, catching everyone's attention. There's much room for passengers and staff to have a comfy, flexible flying experience. It's super high-tech and can fly far without using too much fuel. It has been popular and widely used for decades. Many major airlines operate this aircraft on long-haul international routes. Their heads together got creative, elevate the fancy interiors, resulting in a beautiful and functional masterpiece. It was a true labor of love, driven by a shared passion for varied atmosphere. But that's not all. They also provide you with an awe-inspiring view of the outside world. And of gripping dramas or catchy tunes, there's something for everyone. Too. Treat yourself to a culinary adventure while flying through the clouds. Of course, let's not forget about the convenience of clean and well-maintained team of artisans and designers are synonymous with luxury. They have a personal office that embodies sophistication and productivity. This dedicated space makes attending to business matters seamless with a well-appointed workspace, high-speed internet connectivity, and all the amenities needed to stay connected. The guest bedroom is a true sanctuary of comfort and privacy. Nestled within the Boeing 747-8, this luxurious bedroom offers a cozy bed adorned with premium bedding, ensuring a restful and rejuvenating experience for the guests. Greenpoint Technologies has designed this space to provide a serene retreat within the aircraft, ensuring every guest feels pampered and well taken care of. This private airplane boasts the impressive feature of 2 deck levels, adding to its grandeur and spaciousness. When passengers step on board this private Boeing, they're greeted with an exciting
plane is over 10 years old. Yikes. The private 747 comes with a master bedroom, a guest bedroom, 2 full bed. I feel like there's just so much shit. Like, what are you gonna do inside? Like, imagine you go in and you're like, oh my God, this is the sickest fucking jet ever. You got like a 10-hour flight. You're like, this is so sick. And you go to the master bedroom and you're like, oh my God. You like land the bed and then you fall asleep. And then imagine there's like bumping, you wake up. It's like, what's going on? And like, oh, we landed. And you're like, oh. And then you're off. And now it's like, fuck. Jesus Christ. Can you really walk up and down stairs on a plane? What if you hit some turbulence? I feel like there's like a lawsuit waiting to happen. Can somebody tell me for Arabs or for Gulf state Arabs, for these rich countries, am I just crazy, or does it sometimes feel like they have no taste? Like everything is so gaudy. Is it because the wealth just came too quickly and they didn't have time to develop it? Or because I feel like when you look at older like architecture from like older, like the Middle East or whatever, why does so much of it seem so gaudy and so tasteless? I get that feeling when I look at Dubai sometimes. Like it just feels very... Damn, do they come with all the babies too? Travels up to almost 8,000 miles at 660 miles per hour. God damn. Bro, this plane is huge. You could have fucking taken out both Twin Towers with one plane if you hit it at the right angle. Holy fuck! Okay. Wait until you see mega yachts. Bro, I see some of the yachts that are parked here in Miami. Those things are huge too. God damn. Okay, sorry.
It's big? Yeah, it is. Is there any talking here? It's literally just nothing. Okay, this is the jet right here. And so this is they asked him a question about this right here. So the fact that the Department of Defense is getting a gift.
How do you fly the plane sideways? No, what? You would fly through one building into the next. What do you mean? Cruise ships are fucking insane. Yeah, I think all the largest cruise ships in the world dock here in Miami. So I drive by those like every day too. Well, when I drive, which sucks. Fuck driving. But they're huge. They're all called like the Passion of the Sea or whatever the fuck. They all have these like random names. But I think all these cruise ships can hold like 6,000 people. They're massive. They're insanely huge.
Free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction. So bothers the crooked Democrats that we insist that we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Democrats are world-class losers. And so anyway, yeah, crazy things are happening in the Middle East right now.
Mr. President, why the same people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why
it's
not?
only ABC. Well, let me tell you. You should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, don't give us. I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto. When they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it.
Another golf. Bro, how much golf does this guy play? He makes more golf analogies than I make WoW analogies. This is insane.
Nice. Does all the wealth by which you're surrounded ever make you feel like you were even wealthier? I don't know. A lot of the wealth I feel on Miami Beach is also like very gaudy and tasteless. Maybe that's just a Miami Beach thing. I'm trying to think of like a nice wealthy area that I've been in. Ooh. Parts of Boston near... Is Harvard in Boston? Near the university? I don't know. Those parts with like the nice brick... Those parts probably aren't even as wealthy as this, but there are parts of New England that it radiates wealth and class and like taste, and it looks cool, and it's like very clean, and like the buildings are old, but they're like they're like Switzerland. I think I've only trained through Switzerland once. Switzerland is very nice. How would you define taste? I don't know. I can't. I think definitionally taste is like kind of hard to define, but I don't know. Some people just have I don't have very good taste. I think I can recognize sometimes when there's good taste, but I don't have it myself. But sometimes people can just design things. There's like a coherent message, idea, concept that's conveyed holistically through and through whatever you're engaged with or looking at. Oftentimes people, especially people that come into new money, confuse taste with wealth. And they just buy like really expensive shit or whatever. But I think that sometimes you're just throwing a lot of money at things. It comes off as gaudy, or just like, okay, that's like you've got all the gold-plated stuff and it's like wealthy, I guess, but it's not. You don't have very much You're not very culturally fluent in how you're trying to display your wealth, basically, yeah. Show an example. Damn, fuck, I don't know. I feel like every place I go is very gaudy. Like Vegas, I would say, is like pretty gaudy. Miami Beach, I feel, is very gaudy. I thought New England was nice. I'm trying to think for New York. I don't really travel around much in New York because I just don't give a fuck. Like if I'd spent more time in Brooklyn or whatever, maybe I could find or see stuff.
Yeah, it's a great. Let me listen to this again.
Or I could say thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto: when they give you a putt, you say thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Respectfully, sir, as a businessman, some people may look at this and say, have you ever been given a gift worth millions of dollars and then not received
It's not a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense. And you should know better, because you've been embarrassed enough, and so has your network. Your network is a disaster. ABC is a disaster.
Epic.
Oh, shit, bro. Like, and the thing is that, as far as we know, like, I mean, I feel like if we're keeping score, it sure seems...
Uh-oh, is he about to say something really retarded? Wait, hold on. What is this?
Out of touch.
Yeah.
Out of touch.
Yeah.
Delusional. Uninformed.
This is about me, I'm sure.
Apolitical. Okay. Content creators out there, slop tubers in general.
Slop tubers.
Or people like Asmongold. Or people like... or people like Ethan Klein.
Oh, he won't even say my name. Oh, I guess he's got like other boogeymen now. So I'm like the Baba Yaga. What did they call him? The guy who kills the boogeyman or whatever. I'm like, now he doesn't have to say my name. He's got other boogeymen that he can say. Ethan Klein and Asmongold and others.
Like people that are just like.
Why isn't he talking about Destiny anymore? Because I feel like he. I haven't heard Hassan bring up Destiny in days.
What's going on there? True.
Isn't that crazy?
Angry for no discernible reason or angry for...
I'm not mad. Everything's fine.
Whatever their own personal vendetta is.
What?
And they just basically fucking delude people into believing wrong things. They push people into believing incorrect things.
Oh, no.
Okay?
Like?
You don't have to agree with my positions on this, but when I tell you something about...
You don't have to agree with me, but I am right. Okay, yeah, no. This...
Oh, that was it. Okay. All right, back to this.
Seems like Israel has roached out on us more than Saudi Arabia and Qatar have. Like, that's really a Muslim... Bro, come on. Come on, besides that, right? Come on, you can't bring that one up. That was a long time ago, man. That was some other guy. Guy was an asshole. Anyway, don't worry about him. And anyway, Saudis, yeah, being for this time, yeah, definitely. And it's wild. These mainstream news outlets keep doubling down on the lies. Yeah, I guess so.
What
and,
lies?
Oh my
Wait,
fucking
what?
god. And wow, Qatari defense minister posts and deletes message in support of Hamas. Yeah, he deleted it and doubled down on accepting it. Oh, here we go. Him talking about the jet.
I think Qatar.
Why did you say not taxing tips is dumb? Why? What, because it's income. What? Are we going to have an income tax or not? If we're going to have an income tax, you should pay tax on tips. It's income. Why would you not pay tax on tips? It's fucking stupid.
Who has really, we've helped them a lot over the years in terms of security and safety. I think they, and very, very nicely. And I have
Do you remember what I said before a few days ago about how I thought that Trump and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and maybe Egypt and maybe one or two other ones are just planning on dividing up Palestine and just doing whatever the fuck they want with it?
No.
And then letting Israel just kind of fucking whatever happens.
Oh,
Jordan,
no.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they don't want to do that.
I really...
They absolutely... It might sound good or whatever if you don't know anything about it, but nobody in the Middle East wants that responsibility. Fuck no.
I mean, these are the kinds of things that you do for somebody after you make a deal like that, right? Like, I mean, it is. It seems like the kind of stuff that you do for people after you make a deal like that. Yeah, that's interesting. That will not happen. Okay. It's a conspiracy theory, okay? This is my conspiracy theory.
And for the leader, Qatar. And I think they knew about it because they buy Boeings. They buy a lot of Boeings. and they knew about it, and they said we would like to do something, and if we can get a 747 as a contribution to our Defense Department to use during a couple of years while they're building the other ones, I think that was a very nice gesture. Now, I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too. And it helps us out.
Yeah. They're just handing them out like cupcakes.
Because, again, we're talking about we have 40-year-old aircraft. The money we spend, the maintenance we spend on those planes to keep them tippy-top is astronomical. You wouldn't even believe it. So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down.
I remember I had a friend in Qatar, and we played BDO together, and he was like 17, and he was talking to us, because like we'd all be in like Discord together, or like as like TeamSpeak or some shit.
Black Desert Online.
He was like 17, and he'd be talking about like how all of his friends, like if he was going to get like a Maserati, or if he was going to get a Lamborghini, and like, you know, how like a lot of his friends don't like Ferraris anymore. Like, bro, this guy's living on a private server. He is. Insane. Yeah, tough life decisions, exactly.
That kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person, say no.
But tips are meant to be a gift, not income. What? Tips for servers are, of course, they're income. What are you talking about? They literally replace your income.
I want a free, very expensive airplane.
Video swipers, yeah.
But I thought it was a great gesture, and I think it was a gesture because of the fact that we have helped and continue to. We will continue to.
Right.
To help what? Oh my God! Can he name a Qatari interest? What is he? Or is he just going to say we help Arabs or something? What's he going to say?
All of those countries, Saudi Arabia.
Oh,
$10 the plane's bugged. I mean, wouldn't they be able to figure that out? I mean,
all
obviously they're going to investigate it, right? I mean, it's common sense.
Imagine saying like Qatari gives us stuff because we helped Saudi Arabia so much. He's actually so fucking retarded. I hate my life. I need to play Doom after this. Apologies, a waste of time.
Qatar and
here's the way I see it: is that like if they bug the plane and we can't figure out how they bugged it, I feel like they're doing us a favor. Because now we know that the people that are in our intelligence agency are in fact retarded. Yeah, it's kind of like, think of it as like an audit.
We keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith.
It ain't Boeing? Yeah.
And,
yeah, let's trust Boeing's planes instead.
I don't get it. Someday it'll be like Ronald Reagan. They decommission them. You know?
Wait, wasn't this plane made by Boeing? Or is that not who manufactured this one?
We keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith.
It ain't Boeing? Yeah.
And,
yeah, let's trust Boeing's planes instead.
I don't get it. Someday it'll be like Ronald Reagan. They decommission them. You know, they get to a certain age, they decommission them. It'll go to my library. They're talking about going to my library in years out. But I thought it was a great gesture.
The Trump library, when you go in it, there's not going to be any books in the library. Yeah, there won't be any books in it.
This motherfucker
yeah,
can't
it'll
read.
just be like maybe Trump Bibles, and that'll be it. And yeah, there'll be like golf clubs and like, you know, Playboy magazines, a few things like that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, hats that you can buy. And so yeah, I guess that's the way it is, right? And Epstein files too. Yeah, I guess so, right? I mean, I don't know when that's going to happen, but yeah. And so maybe we shouldn't accept anything from Qatar. Qatar told Hamas to keep Israeli hostages. That sounds like a personal problem between Qatar and Israel. Like, I mean, I'm sorry. Let's see here. Oh, they're even talking about this more.
No, I'm not happy with Boeing. It takes them a long time to do, you know, Air Force One. We gave that contract now a long time ago. It's a fixed price contract.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with the fact that it's taking so long. And we may do something else. We may go and buy a plane or get a plane or something, but I'm not happy with the fact that it's taking Boeing so long. There's no excuse for it. And you know, they had a fixed price contract. I made that deal. And now they're losing a lot.
I don't know who this guy is, but he's just there. Yeah, bro.
Can you explain why we need a new plane for Air Force One when Trump signed a deal with Boeing to build 2 new planes in his first term? Because those planes wouldn't go to Trump personally afterwards, dipshit.
He's always there.
Come on, how's he going to say no to a free plane?
I'd like to see if they could, you know, up the price, but...
Hey, I don't...
I'm good old guy.
Yeah. All right, I got your thing right here. This is all kinds of fucked up. So here's the battery. He's going to get the fucking battery for this garage door opener fixed.
If that
it's a massive piece of shit. Huge piece of fucking shit. We had to go buy a new one of these, and it said we needed the Model B. And guess what? There were all over Amazon, Models A and C. And so, yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. So you're going to go up and try to find a new one of these and see if they can get one to match it up?
Yeah, hey, you know, good luck on this, man.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good luck.
Bipartisan backlash over the gift continues to grow. Now, who is being referenced here? Literally nobody is being referenced. There's nobody saying this is a problem. No.
What? Wait, is he not even going to say that this is probably at least not a good look? At least not a good look? What?
No one is saying MAGA. Oh, wait a second. No, there's MAGA influencer Laura Loomer expressed her displeasure on X. Oh my God, Ben Shapiro is not happy about it? Let me see if I can find that real quick, and I'll pull it up and see if there's anything else really going on with this. But where's the rest of this shit? It's Extraordinary Day. Yep, there it is. Let me see if I can find the rest of this here. And so Trump forgets to sign the executive order.
There's never been anything like it. It's a very exciting
time. Did he forget?
in America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Who's in charge of the budget bill while you're gone, sir? Mr. President.
Totally fucking forgot about it. Totally fucking forgot. Yeah, oh, my bad. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Bernie already is crashing out about the executive order. Why? I thought he would be happy about this. I would assume so. Let me see if I can find it. Trump jet. This is going to be good. Let me see if I can find any more of these. Luxury jet. It's likely the most blatant example of bribery that will be transferred for his personal use. So has anybody said that it's going to be transferred? Trump to accept a luxury 747 to use as Air Force One. Okay, so this is a... So where he did? Yeah, I don't know. It has been said.
Who cares, though? Who cares?
He just said it wasn't?
Who cares, LOL? Who cares, LOL?
Well, I'm not sure if that's even true.
Who cares, LOL?
Will be transferred to the United States Air Force.
Yeah, but even if it did, who cares, LOL?
Where did they say he was keeping the jet? Like, because I didn't hear that anywhere that he said that. Yeah, the personal use is from Air Force One, not after his presidency. Yeah, it's fake news. They didn't just make this up, did they? Qatar just gave Trump a jet. Will he keep the jet for his personal use? Or has he said anything about keeping it beyond his presidency? Okay, let's see. We're going to find out right now.
Okay.
Multiple sources indicate that after his term ends, the jet will be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation, potentially allowing it to use him personally. Trump has defended the argument, a gift free of charge. So this is the Presidential Library Foundation. So he could use it personally. Let me see here. Is a gift free of charge to U.S. government? But he hasn't explicitly stated whether he intends to use it for personal purposes post-presidency.
Good for him.
Oh, okay, so he hasn't said this. Okay, there it is. It's unlikely. So yeah, I take it as a maybe. Yeah, other presidents have done that. Yeah, it's for a museum. Okay.
Other presidents have done that? Wait, did I miss that? Has that happened before? Am I missing something when that happened and I'm just ignorant of American history?
There we go. CBS has a clip of it on YouTube. I'd have to go and find it myself. Because, like, I'll tell you this, right? I don't think he should be taking a gift from Qatar if he's keeping it past the presidency, okay?
Oh,
like, if he's taking it
okay.
and it's
Well,
for the
there we
government,
go.
that's fine. If he's keeping it for himself, that's
at
retarded.
least he said
Like,
that.
I mean, am I crazy? I think that's so obvious. The
Okay.
party point, yeah, duh. Fucking duh.
Okay, well, there we go. We got that in the last 7 seconds of the video, at least.
Coming. And again, there was a lot that happened
way
over the
back
weekend.
here.
There was the China trade deal, and there was the John Alexander release, and then there was this whole story about the Qatari jet and all that. But the big story that he was talking about was an executive order designed to lower the price of pharmaceuticals. So here's what he said. He put out a statement on Truth Social. It says, for many years, the world has wondered why prescription drugs and pharmaceuticals in the United States of America were so much higher in price than they were in any other nation, sometimes being 5 to 10 times more expensive than the same drug, manufactured in the exact same laboratory or plant by the same company. It was always difficult to explain and very embarrassing because, in fact, there was no correct or right answer. The pharmaceutical drug companies would say for years it was research and development costs, and that all of these costs were and would be for no reason whatsoever borne by the suckers of America alone. Campaign contributions can do wonders, but not with me and not with the Republican Party. We are going to do the right thing, something the Democrats have fought for many years. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that tomorrow morning in the White House at 9 a.m., I will be signing one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. Prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 30 to 80%. They will rise throughout the world in order to equalize, and for the first time in many years, bring fairness to America. I will be instituting a most favored nations policy whereby the United States will pay the same price as the nation that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world.
Damn.
Our country will finally be treated fairly. Our citizens' healthcare costs will be reduced by numbers never even thought of before. Additionally, on top of everything else, the United States will save
I love
trillions
how
of
you
dollars.
can get away
Thank
with
you for
that. Like, how much is it going to save? An amount that you wouldn't believe. Okay.
attention to this matter. Make America great again. Okay,
it's
so
always like these.
There are a few things he's trying to do here. One is he's trying to find savings in the big, beautiful tax bill that do not require cuts to Medicaid. And one of the big issues with the quote-unquote big, beautiful tax bill is the question of where cuts are coming from that Republican Congress people want to make the tax cuts quote-unquote deficit neutral. And so some of the questions have been, are they coming from Medicaid? And so what he's saying is we're going to lower the price of Medicaid without cuts because we're going to allow Medicaid to basically tie the price that it pays to the pharmaceutical company.
I guess I just don't think tips should be income. You don't think tips should be income? What do you call the thing that somebody makes to survive from their job? What would you call that besides income?
For pharmaceuticals to the lowest possible price, like whatever price Sierra Leone is paying or whatever. Make no mistake, this is a backdoor price control. It is not in any way a free market policy.
True.
What we actually should be doing, and this is something that President Trump should be doing with regard to his tariff policy, is forcing other countries to pay a higher price for the medications that are produced.
Holy shit! Did he watch a Destiny stream? Yeah, if you really want to fight on market forces, you could tell other countries, listen, I don't like the price caps that you're setting on our drugs. Now, you could try to negotiate those to be higher. True. Wow, good job. Oh my God, it's almost like you went to grade school. I actually went to Harvard, but...
Used in the United States. The way that things currently work is that foreign countries negotiate on behalf of their nationalized healthcare systems with the pharma companies.
Yep.
And they basically say, we're not going to buy any of these drugs unless we're paying X number of dollars.
Yep.
And that X number of dollars is like 30, 20% of what the actual price in a free market system would be. And so American consumers essentially pay the other end of that. American consumers are overpaying because all these other countries are underpaying. And President Trump is totally right that that is absolutely unfair. But the thing to do is to get other countries to pay more. Other countries should be absorbing more of the cost. We could be using the tariff war that he has waged on pretty much every country in order to get them to more fairly allocate resources for drug purchase from the United States.
True.
Because the problem is this. If you artificially destroy whatever profit margins exist for the pharma companies, you just won't get drugs developed. It's that simple.
True.
R&D costs a fortune. The vast majority of drugs that are developed in R&D never make it to market. They fail out in phase 2, phase 3 of the FDA trials.
Wow.
Most never even make phase 3. There are literally tens to hundreds of billions of dollars that get spent every year by pharmaceutical companies and other companies in order to develop things that never come to fruition. It's a very high risk, investment product, biotech and pharma. And that means it needs to be high reward on the other end, because otherwise, why would you sink that much money into the development of these new pharmaceuticals, for example? If you destroy the profit margin, you just won't get R&D. There's a reason that over 50% of all pharma patents are filed in the United States. We're the home of that stuff because they can generate profit in the United States in a way they cannot in the UK or in France, Germany, or Canada. It also means that American consumers bear the brunt of these brand new drugs. Now, over time, as these patents expire, as generics come on the markets move toward the generics. That is a reality. And so, for example, the idea that Americans wildly overpay for drugs, just generally speaking, Americans wildly overpay for brand new drugs that are cutting edge.
But not
that's
the
true.
Generics.
But the truth is the vast majority of medication that we actually consume is not cutting edge brand new R&D drugs. Here, for example, is a chart about what Americans pay for drugs. And what this chart shows is that 91% of drug purchases in the United States are not for brand name drugs. We pay 422% higher prices for brand name drugs than do other members of the OECD, the other developed countries. However, when it comes to generic drugs, we pay 67% of what gets paid in the OECD. So when you actually weight the average, what you find is that the United States overall actually pays less for drugs than comparable countries do. We pay more for the cutting edge drugs because they're being produced in the United States, and other countries are basically free riding off the back of that. Generic drugs, because we have a free market system, generic drugs are really cheap here compared to generic drugs in, say, Canada or the UK, France, or Germany. And so, because the vast majority of drugs we consume are generic drugs and not brand name drugs, that means overall we actually pay less for drugs. So why is it that the United States pharma spending is out of control? The answer is we consume an awful lot of medicine in this country. We consume an enormous amount of medicine. We are fat. This is something that obviously the Make America Healthy Again movement has focused in on. We're fat, we eat crap, we don't exercise, and then we try to heal ourselves on the back end with drugs. So we take many, many more drugs than people who are living in Canada, France, UK, Germany. Now, what do you do about that 422% overage when it comes to brand name pharmaceuticals? The answer is you force other countries to pay their fair share. This is where a tariff war and pressure really should be exerted, is getting the UK not to lowball American pharma. Make the UK tie its prices to America's free market prices. Why should they get to free ride off the back of the American consumer?
Because different markets can bear different costs. This is dumb, but he's closer than most people are on this, at least.
So what is President Trump doing instead? He's saying that Medicaid should tie its price to what the UK is paying. What is that actually going to do? Well, number one, it means many cutting-edge pharmaceuticals simply will just not be available through Medicaid because Medicaid can't pay for it. You see this, by the way, all the time in Medicaid. You see that many doctors, for example, don't take Medicaid because the reimbursement rates are too low. Specialists, very many of them will take cash only or private only because the Medicaid reimbursement rates are too low. So you can see that happening with pharma. That you need a cutting-edge drug and Medicaid just won't provide it because the price is too low, and Big Pharma's like, no, you know what? We can't afford to give it to you at that price. Even if Medicaid does, in fact, provide for that drug, and they get that drug from Big Pharma, all that means is that the now higher prices to compensate for the lower prices for Medicaid get squeezed into the private sector. So it's not that the pharmaceutical companies are going to, quote unquote, make less profit, that they're greedy pharmaceutical companies and they're just stashing away cash in the back room and all this kind of, that's not true. It's not true. That's not how Big Pharma works at all. What will actually happen is that people who have private insurance will pay more for their insurance premiums. And insurance companies will pay significantly more on the other end. So this attempt to, quote unquote, lower prices, in the aggregate, it's not going to lower prices. In the aggregate, it may lower prices on the available drugs for Medicaid, but it will increase prices for everybody in the private sector. And with regard to sort of the overall reduction of prices, there's no way to do that without also destroying the R&D. This is a point that the Wall Street Journal actually made last week. They pointed out that drugs accounted for less than 4% of Medicaid spending, $21.2 billion in 2023. The feds spent 10 times more on hospital payments. Even if Republicans required drug makers to give away medicines to Medicaid, savings would not actually amount to what Republicans need in terms of this tax bill. They need $880 billion in savings. Trying to wring more money out of drug makers might cause some companies to stop participating in Medicaid, as we discussed. This is the Wall Street Journal. Patients would then suffer from less access to novel treatments as they do in countries with socialized health systems that impose price controls. Some drug makers already lose money on medicines they sell to Medicaid. They compensate by raising those prices in the commercial market. And that is likely to be what the future looks like. And the notion that free market economies, that they don't adjust and move with regard to regulation, it's not true. pharmaceutical companies cannot just quote unquote charge whatever they want.
8 out of 10 major drug manufacturers spend more on advertising than on research and development. I don't know what the point of that statement is. In the U.S., for some reason, we have it legal to have. We do commercials for drugs here, so that's not. I don't think that's not surprising. They're probably spending a fuck ton of money on advertising.
Because eventually the patents expire, number one. Number two, there's competition in the marketplace. And so other big pharma companies are trying to encroach on the territory of you discover a new drug, and within 5 minutes, somebody else is trying to discover a new pathway for the new drugs. You can see this with Ozempic. Right? Ozempic was really, really expensive. And very, very quickly, you're seeing people fill the marketplace for Ozempic with knockoffs, other semaglutides, people who are attempting now to create oral versions of Ozempic, so you don't actually have to take a shot, for example.
They could cut a lot of the costs without cutting into R&D. Yeah, but if they cut all of their advertising, they probably wouldn't sell as much. So it wouldn't matter if they developed a new drug, no? What do you mean? I thought of the best idea ever, guys. If we just stop advertising, we can save so much money. Yeah, no shit.
Like the market does an amazing
Except you
job
won't sell
of
anything.
taking what were luxury products and making them available to the common man. This is true everywhere. It's true in medicine too. Things that you now consider to be absolutely baseline medical care, say chemotherapy if you have cancer. That stuff was considered a luxury item way back when. Because when you first develop this stuff, it's expensive. This is what capitalism does. Capitalism takes luxuries and it makes them available to the common man. I mean, look at your cell phone. Go back and watch Wall Street, a movie made in 1987 by Oliver Stone. And it's about one of the richest people on earth, Gordon Gekko. Gordon Gekko, there's a scene where he's walking.
Is advertising necessary for drugs when doctors prescribe them? What? Why do you think they spend money on advertising? Fuck. Never mind. Okay. I always have to remember that the people that feel like so loud and strong about healthcare and shit don't actually consume any healthcare at all. I always forget that. Because half of you that have strong opinions about healthcare don't even go to the hospital. Sorry. It's very common for people to see ads and shit on TV and go to their doctors and ask about particular medications or request particular medications or for money to spend advertising medications to doctors because doctors don't just go through all the studies 24/7 and they're keeping up on all the research. Pharmaceuticals spend money on advertising because they have a return on investment by spending money on advertising. Yes. Personally, I think that's kind of dumb. I think that the United States, is like the only OECD country in the world. I think we're the only one that has advertisements for drugs in the United States. Like, I think when Europeans come to the U.S., one of the weirdest things they see are advertisements for drugs on TV. We probably shouldn't do that. But yeah, that is a reality in the United States, yes.
Around with an unthinkable device on the beach. An absolutely unthinkably technologically advanced product. He's holding basically a radio to his head. And he's walking around on the beach with a cell phone. And at the time, people must have watched and whoa, that dude is loaded. Look at that. Look at it. He's walking around on a beach, not connected to no wire, just with a cell phone that looks like a shoebox. Wow, look at that. And now, of course, every single person, including the poorest Americans, has a cell phone. Everyone. How did that happen? It didn't happen through government subsidization of cell phones. It happened through free market economics.
Happened through yo
mama. If you want better drugs, if you want better treatments, if you want all that, all the people who rip on Big Pharma are perfectly happy to use products developed by Big Pharma the minute they get sick.
So couldn't we get rid of both of those things to cut our drug costs? What am I not understanding? Well, you'd probably be creating a new model. If you say that if we ban advertisements, then it's probably going to change the way that people choose drugs to buy or hospitals choose which drugs they recommend, in which case it would change all of the market incentives would change. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad, but it would change. It would probably just change a lot with how our drug markets function. I mean, personally, I think we probably should do that. I don't know if there's a compelling reason why the U.S. is the only country that advertises drugs like that, but...
R&D is an absolutely necessary component to lengthening the lifespans and bettering the health of people who really are sick. And any sort of executive action, first of all, I don't know where in the Constitution it just says that the president gets to randomly do the kinds of things that presidents of both parties are doing right now.
Both parties really bad.
There used to be this thing. It's now
really
the vestigial organ of American government. It used to be called the legislature. You know, you would elect people to Congress and the Senate, and they'd make specific policies that were directed at specific outcomes. And then you could vote on them, and you could throw them out of office if you didn't like what they were doing.
If advertising money was only meant to advertise to doctors who prescribe, why would they run ads for drugs on TV? Well, believe it or not, doctors, in their off time, watch TV as well. And they probably see. Also, people like, I'm pretty sure that if you go to your doctor, you ask for a particular drug. If it's comparable to another drug, they'll probably say, like, listen, if you really want it, fine, I can fucking prescribe it to you. Like, I'm sure people do this with SSRIs or whatever bullshit. And then the doctor will probably recommend, like, they might have had bad experience personally prescribing it, but if you push enough for it, I'm sure they'll let you try something if you've seen it on a fucking TV commercial. Because they know that if they don't, that you're just going to go to some other fucking doctor and get it prescribed instead. And then doctors see ads. I'm sure pharmaceutical companies probably spend money on like conferences and shit to fly doctors out and try to argue why their drug is better than some other drug as well. Yeah.
Now, apparently, the President of the United States has the power to unilaterally increase prices in the United States with gigantic tariff regimes at the drop of a hat, price control pharmaceuticals, declare national emergencies on everything available. And again, this didn't start with President Trump. I know there are people out there, oh, Trump is breaking the Constitution. As almost always, President Trump is rarely the murderer. He is often the coroner.
Wow.
The system was broken, and Trump simply points to the system and says, it's broken, and then does the same thing Democrats were doing, and everybody goes nuts.
Right.
We should have been going nuts about this, 100 years ago with the rise of the administrative state under Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, okay.
But now we're feeling the effects of all of that. When the President of the United States can, with a signature, put the R&D part of Big Pharma on the bankruptcy line, that is a problem. Forget whether you like the policy or not. I don't. The president should not have the unilateral power to do this. By the way, the same thing holds true with regard to things like the Federal Reserve. The fact that we all sit here waiting day after day for Jerome Powell, one guy, to tell us what the interest rates are going to be is psychotic. None of that is how a market ought to work. It is centralized government economics, and it is bad. It is not good. And it does not bear, by the way, the same sort of fruit that people want it to bear. People think that that means everything is hunky-dory because the president can solve things with one signature. Checks and balances are actually quite a good thing.
Yeah.
As a general rule, they are a very good thing. All right, meanwhile, in other news, there are developments with regard to Ukraine and Russia. So Vladimir Zelensky now says that he is willing to meet with Vladimir Putin. According to the Wall Street Journal, Ukrainian President Zelensky challenged Putin to meet him in Istanbul this week in Turkey after President Trump swung behind the Russian president's offer of talks before a ceasefire. So Putin has not declared a ceasefire. Zelensky said, I'm willing to accept a 30-day ceasefire. He has said this for weeks and weeks and weeks at this point. Putin has never accepted like a 5-minute ceasefire. He pretends to, but it's not real.
Oh, Ben went and talked to Zelensky, and he knows a little bit about how the two sides function. That's so cute now. Good job.
So now Putin said, I'm willing to do face-to-face negotiations with Zelensky, presumably while the war continues. And Zelensky had said, how about this? How about you declare a 30-day ceasefire, and then we start talking? And President Trump said, you know what? I just want you at the table. Don't care whether it's a ceasefire or not, even though the ceasefire was originally President Trump's idea. But is it good that Zelensky and Putin are talking? Sure. I mean, the real question is going to be what comes out of the talks. So Zelensky said that he would be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday, raising the stakes amid a flurry of diplomatic exchanges and brinkmanship over the weekend, where both sides sought to balance not making any significant concessions with placating President Trump, who's demanding an end to the 3-year war. Now, Putin originally didn't respond to Zelensky's offer. Again, it goes beyond the scope of Putin's suggestion of reviving peace talks. Trump's support of the Russian president's proposal, a switch in his position, initially upended European efforts to bring pressure to bear on Russia to...
Oh, that's another one, too. Maybe this guy's a doctor in chat, hopefully. He says, there are 30 plus antidepressants. If a patient comes to me endorsing one, I'll absolutely prescribe it to them if it's within reason. I have my own ideas, obviously, but if they're excited about one, thumbs up. One thing to consider when it comes to the efficaciousness, I don't know the difference between that word and efficacy, but that one's way bigger. The efficacy or the efficaciousness of a particular drug is, in actuality, as much as it might not seem like it, is how likely is it that the patient will actually do the regimen as they're supposed to. Like, this is a thing that doctors are supposed to be factoring in and researchers factor in when it comes to the success or the likelihood of a given drug being effective. That's why there's like a common saying for dieting even, right? Well, what's the best diet or the best workout plan? It's one that you stick to, right? So if there's a drug that's incredibly complicated or it's got like very tight margins on when you can take it or whatever, like some birth control does, sometimes a doctor, if the patient is less responsible or is prone to forgetting shit or whatever, they might prescribe something different or whatever. So if you have a patient who is like saying like, oh my God, like I saw this drug on TV, I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, fine, fuck it, here you go, you can try it. Like a lot of drugs in these classes, like SSRIs and shit, are probably pretty comparable. And it's kind of a crap shot sometimes on what'll work and what won't anyway. So yeah, my guess is like, if you're excited for it, the doctor will probably recommend it, or the doctor will probably prescribe it to you. It's whatever. The term for that is medication adherence. Our electronic medical software measures this, and it's really important. Oh, cute, okay.
Halt the war. Trump then, over the weekend, he said, Ukraine should agree to this immediately. This is after Putin said, let's just get together and talk face-to-face without any ceasefire. And Trump said on social media that Ukraine should agree to this immediately. At least they'll be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible. If it's not, European leaders in the U.S. will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly. Zelensky, who earlier had wanted a truce, a 30-day ceasefire as a condition of the talks, responded immediately. So again, Zelensky is doing the stuff that Trump wants him to do. Let's be clear. Who is doing what Trump wants him to do when it comes to Putin Zelensky? The answer is Vladimir Zelensky is doing the stuff Trump wants him to do. There's no other way to read this. Trump is calling for things, and Zelensky is doing them. Trump wants a rare earths minerals deal. Zelensky says, sure. President Trump wants a ceasefire, a 30-day ceasefire. Zelensky says, sure. President Trump wants a 30-day ceasefire out the windows. They can negotiate. Zelensky says, sure. And every step of the way, Putin is delaying. Because Putin is basically gambling that at a certain point, President Trump gets bored and walks away.
Yep.
That's the gamble.
True.
And it takes 18 months to 2 years for European weaponry to actually ship into Ukraine and adjust so that Ukraine can defend itself without American input. Here's one of the big problems people don't want to talk about. Again, policy has a long tail. Because we watch politics in real time, we think a policy happens and then immediately it's implemented. That is not how it works. If the United States cuts off aid to Ukraine, it is not as though European arms immediately flow in.
Just think, okay? Just think of how positive of a voice Ben Shapiro could be in politics as a conservative, because we definitely don't agree on everything, but like he could be a real influential positive voice if he was just brave enough to go out on his own and not be a total fucking Trump sycophant, man.
Much of the aid that has been provided to Ukraine militarily is only compatible with American ammo, for example. You can't just ship in European ammo to use in American armaments. You can't do it. It takes a while to replace all of that stuff. There needs to be at least a sort of runway for things to change over there. Putin's assuming the United States will precipitously pull out and it'll look like Afghanistan. That is what happened in Afghanistan, by the way. The United States was providing aerial oversight for the Afghan government in opposition to the Taliban. The United States pulled all of its air support, and the Taliban immediately took over, and the Afghan government immediately collapsed. That is what Putin is hoping right now. He's hoping whatever support the
Some more stuff that happened there, but okay.
United States is providing in terms of intelligence, in terms of ammo, that goes away. And then the gap is not filled quickly enough by the European Union. That's the gamble that Putin is playing right now. I don't think that President Trump falls for that trap, by the way. Zelensky put out a statement on social media. He said there is no point in prolonging the killings. And then he said, I hope this time Putin won't be looking for excuses as to why he can't make it. So he's showing up in Turkey, basically saying, I dare you to show up so we can talk. One day earlier, Putin rebuffed a ceasefire ultimatum from Kyiv and its Western allies, instead calling for direct talks. Ukraine and Russia's positions remain far apart. Russia basically wants land ceded to it. It hasn't even won in this battle. Meanwhile, Putin also would like for Ukraine to unilaterally disarm, no military support, no membership in NATO, all of which are not going to be a starter on the conversation. Russia's been ramping up its offensives according to Deep State, which is an independent Ukrainian battlefield monitoring group. They said Russia conducted more attacks.
Why would you name yourself that? You're just like asking for people to make conspiracy theories. Fuck.
During the recent 3-day ceasefire called by Putin in early May, and in the same period the prior month. So we'll see what shakes out in Turkey. Putin is speaking with Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who is the dictatorial Islamist leader of Turkey, who's very much aligned with Russia, about his proposed talks in Istanbul starting at May 15th. President Erdogan said a comprehensive ceasefire would create the necessary environment for peace talks, but Russia just denied it. So once again, Russia appears to be stalling for time in all of this. Representative Michael McCall, Republican of Texas, said, it's pretty clear here Russia's not making a lot of concessions.
There was a 30-day ceasefire called for. Mr. Putin decided to bomb Ukraine on Palm Sunday. He's not making any concessions at all, while Zelensky seems to be making all the concessions. So if the bottom line is Putin has to agree to a 30-day ceasefire for any peace talks to go forward. And the land that he is asking for is, that even J.D. Vance talked about this, and the president, land that Russia has not even occupied in Ukraine. So he has to operate in good faith.
Kinda
We want
wacky,
peace,
kinda wild.
but not peace at any price.
Okay, so that's going to be the question. And we'll find out in short order what exactly Putin is willing to do. My guess is not particularly a lot. Okay, meanwhile, it is amazing to watch as the media and the Democrats ramp up their attack on John Fetterman. Fetterman, of course, is the very heterodox.
I think I've turned on the Fetterman guy. I don't know. I feel like I see too much retarded shit from him. I don't have high opinions of him. Am I wrong? Am I missing something? He just seems a little too goofy to me.
Democratic senator from Pennsylvania. He's been heterodox with regard to President Trump. He kind of grumpily rejects media attacks that he thinks are unfair against President Trump. He's, of course, been incredibly pro-Israel, shocking everybody who happens to be pro-Israel. Because, of course, Fetterman was aligned with the sort of far left wing of the Democratic Party when he was running against Mehmet Oz, who is now part of the Trump administration. Well, now Democrats are trying to claim he has mental problems. So the way this works is if you're Joe Biden and you clearly have mental problems and mental disabilities, but you're willing to provide a face for crap Democratic policy, you're totally fine. You're fine. Everything is good. No problems whatsoever. But if you're John Fetterman and you have a stroke in the middle of a race with Mehmet Oz, and everybody's like, whoa, that seems bad. Democrats are like, he's fine. It's all good. Until the point at which he starts disagreeing with them, at which point it turns out he has a mental problem.
True.
Amazing how the politics just seem to dictate whether people think that others have a mental problem.
That is amazing, isn't it, Ben?
Or not. It's pretty astonishing.
It is.
Actually.
Very astonishing.
According to Axios, Senator Fetterman has unnerved aides with his performance in office, with both current and former staff telling Axios he seems uninterested in the day-to-day duties of a senator. Okay, first of all, welcome to the Senate, where half the Senate is uninterested in the day-to-day duties of a senator. Have you ever met senators? I met many senators, many senators. The number of them are deeply dedicated to their jobs. Limited, shall we say. Capitol Hill's private concerns over Fetterman exploded into public view over the past week as longtime critics and former allies piled on with concerns about the senator. Adam Gentleson, his former chief of staff, said, quote, part of the tragedy here is this is a man who could be leading Democrats out of the wilderness. But I think he's struggling in a way that shouldn't be hidden from the public. What exactly happened? Well, apparently, there was an outburst during a meeting with teachers union officials in Washington last week with one of the members of the teachers union crying. And that is...
What? All right, that's not
That's
funny.
weird.
I don't know why I laughed at that. I'm sorry.
Apparently, according to the Associated
Press.
Press...
For no reason. I'm sorry.
Fetterman began repeating himself and shouting and demanding, why is everybody mad at me? Why does everybody hate me? What did I do? Before slamming his hands on a desk, according to a person briefed on what happened.
Why?
The staffer was comforted by teachers who themselves were rattled by Fetterman's behavior. Fetterman, for his part, said, basically, there's a hit piece. Asked about the meeting with the teachers union representative, Fetterman said in a statement, they had a spirited conversation about our collective frustration with the Trump administration's cuts to our education system. So, again, the building momentum is reliant on the fact that he's moved to the right. Right, so there are people in the Democratic Party who are now suggesting that there's something deeply wrong with Fetterman. Again, if there was something wrong with Fetterman before, presumably there's something wrong with Fetterman now. However, that is not what changed. What actually changed is not, presumably, his mental status. He was hospitalized for depression after the stroke. You know that.
Aww.
The real question is, what changed where Democrats are suddenly panicking? And the answer is that he disagrees with them on some pretty key issues. A Fetterman spokesperson said John expects his staff to disagree with him on things. That's normal. Airing out grievances publicly hurts the entire office and puts staff and their work in jeopardy. So, again, interesting to watch what Democrats now consider to be a health problem worth monitoring and what they consider to be not a health problem worth monitoring. The answer is completely dependent, apparently, on the politics of the person that they are concerned about. Now, meanwhile, controversy brewing over the possible arrest of Democratic members of Congress. So, apparently, according to the New York Post, 2 Democratic representatives from New Jersey were caught on video storming a Newark immigration detention site last week. One was seen elbowing her way past ICE agents in an alleged bizarre political stunt. North Jersey Representatives Robert Menendez Jr. and LaMonica McIver were among the protesters who turned up demanding the closure of the Delaney Hall Detention Center. It houses criminal illegal migrants with alleged MS-13 gang affiliation who are wanted for crimes ranging from rape to murder. Democrats simply pick the best friends.
Oh, no.
Here is some of the video provided Fox News by DHS.
Okay, rest is boring.